Have you ever wondered why some people seem to glow in their golden years, while others quietly fade into loneliness? It's not always about money. It's not even about health. More often, it's the quiet habits, subtle behaviors that slowly chip away at our relationships, our confidence, and even our joy. Let me tell you about Eleanor. She's 71, a retired librarian with a heart full of stories. But lately, her family visits had become shorter, and the phone didn't ring as much. I thought I was doing everything right, she told me. But she had no idea that a few unconscious habits were slowly pushing her loved ones away. These changes creep in gradually, so slowly, in fact, that we rarely notice. But once we do, the good news is, we can shift them. At any age. Stay with me, because habit number 7 is the one that silently destroys more relationships than most people realize, and you'll want to catch it before it goes too far. Before we start, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more practical, heartfelt tips to age wisely, stay connected, and feel more like yourself again. Let's begin with one of the most surprising habits I see all the time. Habit 1. Pushing people away instead of asking for help. Eleanor was in her driveway struggling to lift grocery bags from the trunk. Her arms trembled under the weight. Just then, her neighbor Bob called out, "Need a hand?" Her response was automatic. "No thanks, I've got it." But the truth? She didn't. Not really. By the time she got those bags inside, her back ached and her hands were shaking. And in the quiet of her kitchen, it hit her. This fierce independence wasn't strength anymore. It was isolation, and it hurt. She looked around her empty kitchen and whispered to herself, "Why does it feel so lonely in here? I've heard this story so many times. Seniors who've spent decades taking care of others suddenly find it unbearable to ask for help. They think it makes them look weak, or worse, like a burden." But here's what research tells us. One of the longest studies ever done at Harvard found that the greatest predictor of well-being and longevity wasn't diet. It wasn't exercise. It was relationships. Not just having people around, but allowing connection, accepting help when it's offered, leaning on others when you need it. The following week, Eleanor let Bob carry her groceries in. They shared coffee afterward. And just like that, something shifted. A small act of vulnerability turned into a new friendship. If someone offers to help this week, pause before the automatic, "I'm fine." Instead, try, "That would be lovely, thank you." Then pay it forward with a story, a smile, or simply being present. That's not dependence, that's connection. What's one small thing you could accept help with this week? Habit 2. Ignoring health problems. "It's just part of getting older," Tom said as he brushed off his daughter's concern. She'd noticed he was dizzy more often. He waved it off. 3 weeks later, Tom collapsed at home and ended up in the ER. What he thought was harmless turned out to be a serious infection in his inner ear, completely treatable. If only he hadn't waited. I see this all the time. We notice something's off, dizzy spells, leg cramps, blurred vision. But instead of speaking up, we swallow it. We don't want to be a bother. We fear what we might find out. So we wait, we delay, we minimize. Why do we do this? Because aging can be frightening. Deep down, we don't want to be told something we're not ready to hear. But here's the paradox. The longer we avoid it, the more power it gains over us. One of my colleagues, a geriatric specialist, puts it beautifully. The strongest seniors aren't the ones who never get sick. They're the ones who face symptoms early, with clarity and courage. They take action, not because they're not scared, but because they love themselves enough to investigate. Try this small shift. Keep a health journal. Not from fear, but from compassion. When something new pops up, jot it down. If it lingers, beyond a few days, bring it to your next appointment. Give your body the attention it deserves. What's one symptom you've brushed off lately? Maybe it's time to ask yourself, is this something worth looking into? Habit 3. Becoming too negative or critical. Barbara sat at the Thanksgiving table surrounded by family. She looked around, took a bite of turkey, and said, Well, this turkey's dry, and these kids glued to their phones. In my day, we had real conversations. The room quieted, smiles faded. Later, as her daughter drove her home, Barbara said, "People are too sensitive these days. No one appreciates honesty anymore." But what Barbara couldn't see was the ripple effect of her words. What she meant as truth landed like criticism. Her family didn't feel connected. They felt judged, and over time, those moments added up. Fewer invitations, shorter visits. Now here's the thing. This kind of negativity isn't just a personality change. It's biological. As we age, our brains actually become more sensitive to negative input. It's called the negativity bias, and it means we naturally focus more on what's wrong than what's right, without even realizing it. But there's a way to shift it. Start by catching yourself in the moment. When you feel that urge to correct, compare, or critique, pause. Ask yourself, will this comment build connection or erode it? Then try this rule. For every one criticism, offer 3 compliments. Not fake praise, but genuine observations. Something kind, something specific, something true. Barbara tried this the following holiday. She complimented the mashed potatoes. She praised her granddaughter's dress. And when someone handed her a slice of dry turkey, she smiled and said, "Thank you, sweetheart. I know you worked hard on this." And guess what? That meal ended with laughter. Start small. End your day by writing down 3 good things you noticed. It could be a sunset, a grandchild's smile, or just a warm cup of tea. The mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant grows. So, what's one thing you're thankful for today? Habit 4, talking down to younger generations. Back in my day, we actually talked to each other, Richard told his teenage grandson, who was proudly showing off a video game he had built. The boy's face dropped. By the next visit, he barely looked up from his phone. Richard didn't mean harm. He just wanted to share how things used to be. But what he didn't realize was this. When we dismiss the interests of the younger generation, we're not just criticizing their choices, we're closing a door to connection. We've lived through a lot. Record players, rotary phones, handwritten letters. There's wisdom in that. But if we use it to compare instead of connect, we push people away, especially the ones we love most. Think back. Remember how it felt when your parents scoffed at your music? Or rolled their eyes at your clothes? That same hurt is what today's kids feel when we criticize their world. So next time, try this instead. Build a curiosity bridge. When you see something you don't understand, ask about it. Can you show me how that works? What do you like about this game? What's it like growing up with so much technology? My friend Jim started doing this with his grandkids. He stopped making jokes about their phones and started asking them to teach him apps. Now, his teenage granddaughter sends him playlists and memes she thinks he'll enjoy. She even texts him first. He told me, "For the first time in years, I feel like I really know her." Remember, curiosity connects. Criticism divides. So what's one thing you've been skeptical about that you could ask someone younger to teach you? You might be surprised by the joy that follows. Habit 5. Over-talking and not listening. Martha couldn't figure it out. Her daughter's phone calls used to last nearly an hour. Now they barely made it past 10 minutes. "We had such a nice chat," Martha would say to her friends, completely unaware that she'd spoken nearly the entire time. She'd shared her health updates, her neighbor's gossip, her thoughts on politics. But she hadn't asked once how her daughter was doing. This happens more often than we think. We reach a point in life where we've gathered stories, lessons, opinions, and we feel the clock ticking. We want to share before time runs out. But here's the truth. When we dominate a conversation, we slowly erase the other person from it. Connection begins to fade, not because they don't love us, but because they don't feel heard. Carol learned this the hard way. One day her son sat her down and said, "Mom, I don't think you even know what's going on in my life anymore." Broke her heart. From that day on, she made a change. She wrote a simple note and taped it near her phone. Ask about their day first, and then she listened. Not just with her ears, but with her full attention. That simple shift transformed her relationships. Her calls grew longer again, but this time, they were shared. Try this. Use a 2-to-1 ratio. For every one story you share, ask 2 questions. Let people tell you about their world, and really listen. When was the last time you learned something new about someone you love? That moment of discovery only happens when you create space for it. So today, what question could you ask that opens a door? Habit 6. Holding on to grudges and regrets. James hadn't spoken to his brother in 20 years. It started with a disagreement over their mother's care. Now, even the memory felt distant, but the bitterness remained sharp. At every holiday, when someone asked why Uncle Frank never came, James would shrug and say, "It's complicated." But inside, he still carried the weight. Grudges don't just live in our minds, they live in our bodies. They show up in our clenched jaws, our tight shoulders, our lonely afternoons. We think we're protecting ourselves, but in reality, we're carrying a heavy load that doesn't serve us anymore. Here's something we often forget. Forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about choosing freedom over resentment. Helen knew this pain. She'd spent 3 decades angry at her sister. One day, she sat down, wrote a letter she never intended to send, and then burned it. Watching the paper curl and turn to ash, she whispered, "I'm done carrying this," she told me later. I thought I was keeping the pain alive to stay strong, but once I let go, I realized strength feels light, not heavy. If you're holding on to something right now, ask yourself, is this making me feel safe or stuck? Try this. Close your eyes. Picture that grudge as a heavy stone. Now imagine placing it on the ground. Feel the release in your shoulders, your breath, your heart. You don't have to carry it anymore. So, what burden are you ready to set down today? We've uncovered 6 subtle but powerful habits that often go unnoticed. Habits that quietly erode connection, push loved ones away, and leave many seniors feeling more alone than they need to be. But here's the truth. These aren't personality flaws. They're just patterns, formed by years of experience, shaped by emotion, and carried quietly into later life. The beauty is, patterns can change, and the smallest change can make the biggest difference. Eleanor rekindled warmth with her family by learning to say yes to help. James found emotional freedom by letting go of a decades-old grudge. And you? You have the same power. So here's your gentle invitation. Pick just one of these habits to work with this week. Bring your awareness to it. Not with judgment, but with curiosity and compassion. Ask yourself, what kind of connection do I want to create in this season of life? What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? Not just in words, but in presence. Because aging is not about fading away. It's about deepening, softening, choosing what matters most, and at the heart of it all, connection. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to reflect in the comments. Your story, your insight, your courage might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And remember, it's never too late to love better, listen more, and live fully. You are still becoming, and that is a beautiful thing.